Hello and welcome to Ode to Games. I'm Kevin Van Leen, joined alongside Logan Plant. How you doing, Logan?
Episode 246? That's crazy. That's
250 is
crazy,
right
man.
around the corner.
Yeah, what are we gonna do? Top 250 moments in Secret of Mana Remake would be a good
Ooh,
one.
were there 250 moments in that game?
Yeah, most were bad.
how,
Number
how many how
one.
many of those are crashes?
Number one was when we sat at Arby's and debated if we were gonna finish it or not as a top moment.
Number two, finishing it,
Number
being
three,
done
when
with it.
Zach got sucked up onto that platform and couldn't get down. I think that also
Like,
happened to you.
I do remember that. Don't play Secret of Mana remake. It's awful.
No.
It's our prediction show this week.
Well,
We're going to be taking a look at our predictions from last year, see how bad we did, and make some predictions for this year that'll hopefully be a little bit more accurate. But first, the Last of Us TV show is out. The first episode is out. Logan, you've gotten a chance to see it. You've been talking to other people about it. How good is it?
it's really good. It is surprisingly good. Um, yeah, I really, really liked it. I think we talked about this on one of the shows. I think when the reviews dropped last week, that this format really does lend itself better to The Last of Us story than trying to cram it all into a movie or even two movies would. Like having this
Yeah.
episodic format really works nice. It clearly has that HBO budget. It looks very amazing. I really like all the actors they've chosen for the characters so far, and yeah, it's really cool. They're fleshing out the world kind of a lot more. Like there's new characters that aren't from the game that are getting some screen time and some backstory, more backstory for the characters that we already know of. They're tweaking the story a little bit, which, but not in ways that bother me at all, just like little minor changes. And yeah, it's really, really cool so far.
How is the dynamic between Joel and Ellie? How do the characters pull it off?
They spend most of the first episode apart because they
Okay.
actually the opening with Sarah and
That's
Outbreak
right.
Day
Yep.
is like 40 minutes
Oh
of the
wow, it's almost
episode.
the whole
It's
first
long,
episode.
yeah, because it's not just like, oh, the night of, and then Sarah goes to bed, wakes up, and everything falls apart. It's like it starts in the morning of Joel's birthday, and Joel
Oh.
wakes up, she comes downstairs, she goes to get his watch fixed, which we know happens when she gives it to him, but we actually see her going to fix it. She goes and bakes cookies with the neighbor. Yeah, so she actually, we see her entire day before then seeing what happens in the evening on that day. Um, but yeah, so that's a really cool part of it. And the actress who played Sarah was really, really good. Like that was really, really well done. And what's really cool is that there will be these conversations from that are new to the show that weren't in the game, that are just new dialogue, new story, and then it'll just seamlessly transition into a scene that you recognize that they replicate from the game shot for shot. And like there's a couple like really key moments, like in the beginning of the game when Tommy and Joel are in the truck and you're still kind of playing from Sarah's perspective in the back seat, and they're driving away from the house, and like they pull up to like this way they can turn left or right to get on the highway. They turn right, you pass this farm that's burning down. Like that's shot for shot from the
Oh
game,
wow,
and it's
yeah.
like really cool to see that. But then
Passing the family who's like, "Oh, let me
yeah,
in," and like, "No,
and
no, don't stop."
yeah, someone else will come along. Like those lines ripped straight from it. Like when Ellie tells Joel his watch is broken, that conversation is straight from it. But then there's other little minor changes, like yeah, in the car chase, in the or when they're driving through the town when all hell's breaking loose in the beginning. The way that their car crashes is different than the way their car crashes in the game. Just like little minor things. But yeah, it's really good. The music is good. It's the same composer does a lot of it as from the games. The show opens in the 1960s with this news broadcast that is it's like a talk show. It's like a daytime talk show, and they're interviewing these fungal experts about like, could a zombie outbreak ever happen? And this one guy basically says yes, and here's why, and he explains it, and then the theme song kicks in. Super cool way to start it, like totally different and new. Yeah, it honestly, I went in skeptical because this is something where I'm like, the game is so cinematic already and tells its story very well. I didn't know if I needed this, but I can't wait for the next one on Sunday. Like this will be a week to week thing that I watch for sure, and I have faith that the whole series is going to be really good.
Yeah. For the people that you're talking to, I know we are talking a bit before the show. Some people have played the game before and know what they're getting into, and other people haven't. But it seems like across the aisle, people are enjoying it, whether or not they played the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it does a really good job of kind of explaining things well enough, so it's not like you aren't expected to play the game heading into this. And I do think there's a couple moments that have felt a little bit rushed. Like Joel and Ellie do meet in in the first episode, and Marlene is the one that's like, you need to smuggle this girl, and that all just feels really rushed and really fast. Like they decide really quick that Joel and Tess are going to take Ellie, and that there's just a couple little things like that bugged me just a tiny bit. But yeah, I don't think this is just a cool story that you're seeing for the first time if you haven't played the game. And I don't know if you saw Naughty Dog tweeted, hey, if you want to play along, watch the show, then play up to that point in the game. It's out now. And yeah, releasing part 1 was a
Makes
smart call
sense.
because it's on
Yeah.
PC also in like a month. Yeah. I don't know why it's not on PC already.
Yeah.
It seems
You'd
like
think if they were
a big
able to
market
do
for
it, they
this,
would have
like,
done it already. They want as
yeah.
many people to hop in as possible. I guess if it's out in a month, it'll still be out before
The
the
show
show
will still be going,
ends.
yeah.
So maybe that's as good as they could have gotten it. But looking back on it, it's definitely it was a really good move to release another version right before the show, especially with how big it seems like it's going to be and already is.
Yeah, what had the second biggest debut on HBO since 2010, I think. House of the Dragon was bigger, obviously. A sequel series to Game of Thrones is going to beat it. But the biggest since what? I think Boardwalk Empire was the show in 2010. It had 5 million viewers on Sunday, which usually represents, I read, about like a quarter of viewers. So like it's going to be like a 20 to 30 million people probably that watch this, which is crazy. It's a lot of people.
Whew, you're making me want to watch it.
Yeah, it's good. And also it almost like, I don't know, we talk about The Last of Us so much because it's always in the news because there's always like this show or the remake or the multiplayer game, and like I feel like we tend to get a little bit tired of how much it's in the news and how that's kind of all Naughty Dog's been doing lately. But seeing the story presented in a new way is like, man, it is really good. Like it is a really, really good world and story and game, and yeah, it is talked about a lot. But in some cases, it deserves that much because it's pretty cool. And I love Pedro Pascal also. He's awesome as Joel. I bought in instantly to him as Joel. So yeah, that was cool.
Hopefully it keeps going that way. Hopefully keeps going through. They're trying to make it through the first game in this first
The
season.
whole season is the first game, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully there aren't too many moments that feel rushed. Hopefully they can kind of get through everything that they want to do.
How long is The Last of Us to beat?
Was it 10 to 15 hours? Would be my guess.
Says The Last of Us is 15 hours.
15
but
hours.
So much of that is gameplay when you're actually playing. Like to get through it in 9 1-hour long episodes, that seems pretty reasonable to me. Yeah, I feel like they'll be able to because I read that there's only going to be as much like combat as the story necessitates, is basically what they said. So it's
Whatever
not going to be
means.
like constant action.
I mean, you've also got what Left Behind as well. I would assume they're going to put that in there.
That's true.
At some point.
And I think there's going to be, they cast a character for this show that is already dead in the game, and I think there might be some flashback episodes where they flesh out that story. Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, and also this is I know this is a gaming podcast, but here's some of my TV criticism as of late. I felt like since everything has moved to streaming services, nothing has cared about kind of having an arc within its own episode anymore. Like I feel like I watched Obi-Wan last year on Disney Plus, and it felt like they made one story and just chopped it up at the 1/6 marks. And there's no arc to each episode. Like there's no like conflict, rising action, resolution, nothing to the individual episodes because it's all just a part of this like 6-hour movie basically. And what I liked about the first episode of The Last of Us was it did feel like an episode. It had its own arc. It had kind of a mini resolution to some of the things it set up within that episode. I think it helps because the game is structured within chapters too. So if they just say like do like 2 chapters per episode or something like that, it'll generally work that way. But I felt with some other shows I've watched lately, it's like, it's just like a cliffhanger every week. Nothing ever is resolved because it's just like you made this one thing and then, randomly chopped it up. So I found it cool in this one that it has not done that. It didn't do that in its first episode.
I had a similar but different thought. Stranger Things was kind of the opposite of that in the sense that they weren't confined to a TV 1-hour block where, you have, 45, 50 minutes and then the other 10 minutes is commercial. So you have to jam everything in. And so those episodes got long, like 2 hours long, like a whole movie. Whereas they probably could have cut it down and kind of changed things up, but they didn't need to because it's on a streaming service and they can kind of do whatever they want in that regard. especially because you can just pause it and come back. Like if I don't want to watch the whole 2-hour episode, I can just pause it and come back if I really wanted to.
Yeah.
But this sounds like a better situation than that. I felt it watching Better Call Saul, as we talk about TV for a second, where that felt like they were cramming everything into the episode. It all fit. It didn't have to run like 2 hours long. It fit into that 45-minute window, and it was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I've had the exact same thought as you before, where I feel like shows on streaming services have a lot of deleted scenes in them that just don't need to be there because there is no limit anymore. And it's almost more impressive to me when a show that is restrained to a time limit can be effective rather than like every idea you have makes it in to this 2 hour long episode. And it is just ridiculous and bloated and you don't need it all. And I think that things get better when they're tighter in terms of like storytelling and fiction and media and things like that. Like there's always something you can go back and cut out and make it a better experience. That seems like in game development, that's a huge part of what they do. We're talking about The Last of Us. I remember hearing Druckmann say The Last of Us Part 2 was originally going to be 5 days for each character that you controlled. And that game already felt a little bit too long by the end. It was like, okay, we've been going a while here. And they realized that and cut it down. But yeah, these shows were like Stranger Things, episode 3, 2.5 hours. It's like,
ridiculous.
Oh it's just too much. Yeah.
Well, that's good. Because it's on TV, right? HBO on it.
Yeah, I think so. I don't really know. I don't know if that means it has a time limit though, because you look at the episodes for like Game of Thrones, and it's like each one is a different length. Like it does air on HBO, but I don't know if that means that it has like a time slot. Like if it aired on like cable, like if it aired on like one of the major networks, like NBC, ABC, whatever, I think it can still be as long as it wants. Like this first episode was an hour and a half, and I think the rest of them are going to be shorter.
Okay,
but yeah, even if it's not like a restraint, even if they just have the philosophy to make each one an hour long instead of
that's hour 40, ideal. Yeah,
hour 20. Yeah,
you don't have to have the restraints if you just have that in mind that we should be doing something like that. I think that you're going to get a better product because sometimes you can feel when you watch a scene, it's like this did not need to be here. It would have been interesting to watch it as a deleted scene. You watch it later, you're like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I can see that. But then you watch it in the entire runtime, and it feels like too much.
Yeah, and going back to this show for a second, I feel like I do the creepiest part of it was that first 45 minutes before we entered kind of the Last of Us as we know it, right? Like the world we're very familiar with like all these rundown cities, the toppled skyscrapers, the clickers and everything running around, and these civilizations trying to, like, that feels very removed, right, from reality. But seeing kind of a chunk of a game, which I haven't played the remake, which I know looks better, but a game that like has shown its age in some ways, like the original Last of Us, and it's like a 15-minute chunk where you're in present day normal society. To have that extrapolated into one of the most gorgeous looking TV shows I've seen at 40 minutes, it was a little bit gut wrenching to watch that, because it's like just seeing the society collapse kind of more up close. That was like, oh man, that was really tense. It was really tense to watch kind of everything.
Even when you know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Which is another thing that I found impressive with this, because I told you about Obi-Wan. I really hated that show. And one of the reasons I felt there were no stakes. And I'm like, why does it feel like there's no tension in this? Like, I know the characters survive because this is set in the middle of a story, but even so, I feel like there could still be tension in that. And then I watched The Last of Us, where I know very well what's going to happen, but I do feel, it does feel tense. And I don't know, there's just some secret sauce about filmmaking that I don't know what it is that has the ability to create tension versus that Star Wars show, which really didn't.
Well, yeah. I hope it keeps rolling along like it is.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like this first episode's really good, and hopefully it keeps that up all the way to the finish line, and then we can see what happens after that. Yeah. You know,
make part 2 on TV. I want to watch it. Yeah, I would love to watch it. That would need to be 2 seasons. That game is like twice as long as the first one.
Right, and it's set up perfectly in that regard, right? You have the first season being the first chunk where you play as Ellie, and then you swap to the other character, and then maybe the second season is a little bit longer as kind of like the final bit. I don't know how you do that, but I mean, it's set up relatively well for kind of a 2-season run.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Have to wait and see.
I have some show and tell, Kev.
Oh,
what I got this week. uh,
Let's see it.
Kazuya Amiibo
Oh,
and Sephiroth Amiibo.
you're
Here they
watching on
are.
YouTube at Oda Games. You can
Yeah,
see the
watch it
new amiibos.
online.
There's no Sora, but
Don't even. There's a funny story with these. So yeah, all that's left officially announced is Pyra/Mythra, and then every character will have one except for Sora. Oh boy. Yeah, we won't get into that again. But there's a funny story with these. I picked them up at Best Buy and in person, and there were two employees trying to look in the back of the store pickup section, trying to find out where they were, because the Smash ones have gotten hard to find, except Steve and Alex, which were on shelf. They're still on shelves. I feel like they made millions of the Minecraft ones because they thought
kids love
non-amiibo
Minecraft.
collectors would want them. But these have gotten kind of hard to find even on release, and they come back and they're like, "What's your name? Can I see your ID?" And they go back again, and then these two employees are kind of like quibbling with each other, and then they're like, "Here you go. It's got the wrong name, but these are yours. These are definitely yours." And so they hand me these pickup that there's the stickers on the back of them, like the Best Buy in-store pickup, and it just doesn't have my name on it. I'm like, "Are you sure
It's
these
like
are mine?"
somebody
Like, "Yeah,
else's name.
they're yours." Yeah, somebody else's name. And they're like, "Yeah, but the order number's right." And then I'm like, "Okay." And I leave and I get in the car and I pull up my order number. It is not the right order number. So
Oh.
I'm hoping they just gave that other person mine and that I
Assuming
got
that it was there
theirs.
because they seemingly couldn't
Yeah.
find it when you were there.
Yeah, but I went I went on the second day they were out, so maybe this other person went on launch day and got them. But if these belong to you, person who I'm not going to name on this podcast,
And won't name
I'm
your order
sorry,
number.
won't name the order number. But I don't know. Yeah, if they went in to pick them up, hopefully they were still available online, so hopefully they still locked them down.
Hopefully. Oh God.
But they were like, "Yeah, just take them. They're yours." I'm like, "Okay."
This is your order number. It is
Yeah.
not, but I will take them, I guess, because
Uh-huh.
I paid for them.
Mhm. Yep, but they're nice. They're very nice looking. I especially like Sephiroth. That's a very good one.
Yeah,
So
that one
with
looked cool
the
from what I've
wing,
seen.
and
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good one. But yeah,
Amiibos are
Pyra/Mythra.
nice.
Hey, you have a few, right? Don't you?
Two.
Didn't the
I have
Hero and
Hero
Joker?
and Joker. Yep.
That's a good two. Those two have gone up in price a lot since you
Really?
bought them. Yep. The kind of the ultimate DLC one. So like starting with Joker, who was the first DLC character. They just didn't really have big production runs. Like Piranha Plant was the last one before the DLC amiibo started coming out, and he was on shelves for a long time. But then starting with Joker, it's like they had more limited runs, and I never saw a Joker, a Hero, a Terry, a Byleth, a Min on shelves anywhere. I saw Banjos and Steve's, but that's
Really?
it. Yeah,
I bought my Hero on shelves, but I bought Joker online. So
yeah, yeah. Like they're each in like the ballpark of like 60 to 70, and they're only a couple years removed. So
oof.
yeah.
I
Did
wonder
you
if
leave
it's
them in the
'cause
box or did you open them?
I left them in the box. I have no use for
Ooh,
using the
yeah.
amiibos.
I have too many to have left them in the box. There's not room.
I haven't even seen the Joker one. It was shipped in America, so
Oh, okay.
that's not with me.
Mhm.
I only have the Hero one with me, but it's
The Hero
nice.
one's great. It's very yeah.
Yeah,
It is great. That's such a good one because like I wanted Dragon Quest stuff before Hero joined Smash, but it's so expensive. Like we talked about, it's like
yeah.
$80 to $90, and so that was a great. It's such a great quality for the price of these
That's the thing
characters.
with amiibos. For someone who is not into figures nearly enough to justify the prices that those things are going for, amiibos are perfect.
Yep.
You know, like $15 or whatever to get a high quality figure, higher quality than I feel like some of these $50 to $60 ones
Yeah,
look
definitely.
is
Yeah.
great.
Like they're not posable, but I think they look better when they're not posable because they don't have all
Yeah.
the joints and stuff
Yeah,
that
the
move.
joints and the
Yeah.
arms look really off to me. I if they give me a good pose, I'll be happy.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Like unlike Luigi, the Luigi Smash amiibo sucks. He's planking. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's terrible.
I think I have.
Yeah, it's like a little wedge, like a Trivial Pursuit wedge that he's resting on
Yeah.
because he's planking. Yeah. Anyways,
Really good design. Congratulations on that. Glad you
thank
got them.
you. 2 to go. Hopefully 3. there's gonna be man. Someone's
It's
gonna
gonna
have
be
to answer
riots
to
if
me.
they don't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. It's gonna be terrible.
Before we get into our predictions, we have one other thing to get to, and that's our surprises and disappointments. So we've picked surprises and disappointments for Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft. Why don't we start with Microsoft? Because I think we are both the most removed from Microsoft. What do you got for your? We'll start off with the disappointments. What is your biggest disappointment from Microsoft this year?
They didn't really have any games this year. They really didn't. Like everything got delayed that was supposed to come out. Um, and it just felt like 2021 was strong because it had Forza and Halo, which did start strong despite and that was a disappointment last year too. Was kind of the follow-up of the really awesome kind of comeback for Halo in December of 2021. And then last year there was just no content. And yeah, Game Pass had some good stuff. You had Persona that finally came to Xbox, but I honestly feel like the Switch release kind of stole some of that thunder from it because I'm sure way more people played that on Switch than on Xbox,
Oh
anyways.
yeah,
It was not a banner software year for them, and this year is setting up to be. It's setting up to have a lot coming out for Xbox, but yeah, and there was some good stuff like Pentiment, which I actually started very briefly. I played a couple hours of it. It was cool. That came out at the tail end of last year, and there were some other things, but I just felt like there weren't many games, and that is another that's a disappointment with Sony also. Like both of them, honestly. Nintendo had the only strong software year, in my opinion.
yeah. Microsoft disappointment is the same for me. Just it doesn't matter as much for me, but it is disappointing to see some of these games miss targets, and it it's also hard because we know seemingly a lot of what's coming out eventually, but a lot of it is really far off. And the stuff that could have come out this year all got delayed, which is a good thing if they turn out to be good on launch. I'd rather have that than they come out and they're absolutely broken.
Yeah,
But it's been it's been a thing with Microsoft for a while, just not having a really strong library. Game Pass has been dragging them along. I think about what they'd be without Game Pass, and I feel like it'd be a completely different situation because
like it was
there's
on Xbox One.
right, but round two is a lot harder to swallow than round
Yep.
one. You
Yeah.
know, you look at the Wii U, that was hard, but they were able to bounce back with the Switch. If you had another
Mhm.
round of that, that could kill you.
Yeah. It killed Sega. They had the
Yeah.
Dreamcast and the Saturn back to back, and both had no games, and then it was over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this coming year for Microsoft is super important. The games that they have planned for this year, they got to come out this year and they got to be good. They need at least one game. They need Starfield to be good, I think. They need
Yeah.
that game to be a tentpole release. Could be, might not be, but
Yeah.
considering the state of Microsoft's first party games, Halo Infinite, Forza, um
Yeah. Yeah.
they they need more. They need more. Before let's get into disappointments. We were talking about Sony. Let's get into their disappointment of the year. You think games?
I picked a different. I wrote down a different one. I just did want to mention that I was disappointed in the software support for them. I did actually. I've played a decent number of games on my PS5. I've mentioned off air, maybe on air, that I'm working on this game ranking project, and it includes kind of trying to track down every game I've played on every platform ever across my life, which is quite the task. But on PS5, I wrote down I've played 10 games in 2 years on PS5. Like it's not nothing. Um, but I have played three of those were first party. The rest were third party. So yeah, it's just it was kind of a disappointment also. But I went with PSVR backwards. Lack of PSVR 2 backwards compatibility is the big one for me as a PSVR owner. Everything I should be the target audience, right? Like I should be lumped in there of like we want to bring in VR enthusiasts and PSVR owners, and everything about this is just there's nothing for me there. It's insanely expensive. Oh my goodness, $550 is nuts. And then the library just not moving over. And I get it's a totally different system. It used a camera. It used a camera on PlayStation 4, and you had to have this octopus of wires to make it work. And I get it's now a single connection, no cameras, new controllers. So I get it. But the fact that there's not even like, hey, if you own this game on PSVR, you'll get it for free. It is a bummer. And everything about that messaging has told me I'm not going to be picking up PSVR 2 for at the very least multiple years, if ever.
Yeah. You don't even have the dongle to use
Nope.
your PSVR
Which is
on
so
PS5.
so annoying. Yeah. That's been a saga. Yeah.
Ugh.
Saga with no updates for 2.5 years.
Have you ever gotten curious enough to look up what they're going for on the secondhand
They're
market?
expensive. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
really expensive. They're like $50, and I'll just boot up my PS4 if I need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a shame because there's still stuff on PSVR I never played that I wanted to, and it's just really cumbersome now because the PS4 is not hooked up anymore.
Yeah, because there's not besides PSVR, there really
Besides
is
that,
no
there's no
reason to
reason. Yeah,
because backwards compatibility is there for PS4,
yeah,
but
and
not
I
on
think that's
PS5.
why it bugs me because like I get that the hardware's moving on and not having backwards compatibility. Like the Wii U, you can't put a disc into the Switch and play it. But the fact that the PS5 is a PS4, basically, like it runs all the same games and everything. Like I know it could run the software. It's all digital. It's in my library. I just can't access it.
Yeah.
It's a bummer.
Hopefully they'll find a way to bring them over even with new versions. It would suck to have those games just be stranded there
Yeah,
and have no chance to move forward.
yeah,
But if they do, I don't know if they'd give it to you if you already own it. Part of me feels like they
yeah.
do at the very least a like $10 or $20 upgrade. That seems to be Sony's MO. If
Hmm.
not, just charging you again.
Yeah.
Yeah. PSVR 2 factors into my disappointment, along with how little I've played my PS5 first into PSVR. I predicted something relatively close to its final price tag, but that that doesn't mean I can't still be disappointed with this price.
Would you
The
predict
fact that
500?
I predicted 500,
Yeah.
um, which is the same amount as the console itself, and it's over that. I can't.
Hmm.
I don't know. I just can't justify spending more money on the VR unit than I would on the entire console itself.
Yeah.
Like I just
Especially
know that
when
I'm going to
there
be
is
spending.
VR out there that's cheaper, like Oculus Quest 2.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
there could have been an option for it. Yeah, I know that I'm not. I don't think I'm going to be spending that much time on PSVR to warrant that price tag. And my other concern is that if it doesn't do really well, what's the support going to be like? It seems like the support at launch is going to be relatively good. They've got a fair amount of stuff coming out on launch, but
Yeah.
you always have to wonder with these sorts of things how good the support is going to be if it doesn't take off in the way that Sony envisioned. And that's one of the risks if you're in day one, is that you could buy in, play these games, and then I don't think they're going to abandon it per se, but if it doesn't sell very well, the games might be fewer and further between
Yeah.
than you would like for that kind of an investment.
Yeah.
And the other disappointment for me is just how little I used my PS5 this year. I acquired it this last year, and I barely played it. I think that's going to be changing now that these games are coming out that are PS5 only. They've got more in the pipeline, it seems. Ishin's coming out soon. I'm really looking forward to that. I've got some games that I want to play. Ghost is on there. So I think
Hmm.
that's going to be changing. But yeah, I was surprised of how little I spent on my PS5 and how much time I spent on my Switch. I thought it'd be a little bit more evenly split since it's a new console. And when you get a new console, it's like, I just want to spend a lot of time with it. But that just wasn't there. Nintendo just had more compelling games
Yep.
this year.
Yeah.
Moving to Nintendo, disappointment for them this year. If you got one.
Yeah, I went with
Decent.
the Zelda delay just because that was personally a bummer to me because it said 2022 in at E3 a couple years ago, and then it did not end up happening. But yeah, that was a shame. But otherwise, I thought it was a great year. I almost put on here kind of the state of Pokemon was disappointing, especially when they had Arceus in January and could have pushed that to November and Scarlet Violet to next fall and been totally fine. That just didn't happen. Of course, there's already the anime announcement for Scarlet and Violet, so they just got to keep that whole machine running. But that
That's
was
the
a bummer.
point.
But yeah, the performance of Scarlet and Violet was a big bummer for a game that was otherwise cool. And yeah, the Zelda delay, but we're close now. We're 4 months out, so yeah, that won't be
How much
too long.
longer to
Oh my
wait?
gosh, that's crazy. Where's the
We're
time
almost there.
going? That's so
The
crazy.
days just melt away.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Game performance is my biggest disappointment on Switch. There's been a lot of discourse about is the Switch too old? Do they need to come out with something right away? I'm inclined to say no, but I have been disappointed with several games and their performance. Some that I haven't played, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, seemed like an absolute dumpster fire in terms of its
Yes.
performance from what I
Yes.
saw. But even games that I played this year, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I love that thing. But as I get further along in it, there are just moments where it kind of freaks out. I've
Uh-huh.
had a crash. I've had a couple of different times where the game just stops and you sit there for a second. Like, okay,
Yep.
is it
I've had
moving
that
me
too.
back to the main menu? And then it kind of kicks back in. And then beyond that, that's Nintendo first party. Bear and Breakfast performed horribly on Switch. Sports Story performed horribly on Switch. I know that those are completely different beasts. They've got their own things going on, but
Yeah.
I was not expecting that much in terms of performance problems from games that I played within a calendar year on Switch. Obviously,
Yeah.
not all of it is in regards to to the Switch's power for the performance, but I do think it's starting to get a little bit old. It's starting to show its age here, and it feels like they've pushed it about as far as it can go. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 feels like they pushed it up to the limit. And if this thing's around for another 2 years or something along those
Yeah.
lines, what's going to happen there? I feel like we've already hit that ceiling.
Yeah, I think there are exceptions to that rule. Like Splatoon 3 looks and runs amazing on the console, but yeah, Xenoblade's like almost too ambitious for the machine. But yeah, the indies you played, I don't know if you can group in with hardware issues. That's just they had their own things going on with those
Yeah.
games. But yeah, even Kirby ran not great at points. Like some
Yeah.
of the enemies off in the distance that just looked
The
like they
PowerPoint
were a
presentation.
slideshow. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, maybe this is the year we hear about new hardware. I'm ready for it. I just want, but I don't need 4K. I just want 1080p and solid frame
Yep.
rate.
We've been talking
Yeah.
about that for a long time when people were talking about how they really wanted some sort of upscaling to 4K on a Switch Pro, a theoretical Switch Pro from a couple of years ago. That never made sense to me. I was thinking if you can get everything to run at 1080p 60 FPS, that is perfect.
Hmm.
I don't know about the next generation if they're trying to extrapolate that out for the next 5 or 6 years, if maybe that's the time that you go to 4K, because by the time that this thing is done will be like 2030 and maybe that's more important.
Yeah.
But at least right now that does not matter to me. 1080p and 60 FPS is infinitely more important. It's been the case on PS5 too. I always play performance mode rather than the graphical fidelity.
Yep. Yeah, it always seems to default to fidelity mode, and I'm like, I don't want that. You should know me by now. I don't want that anymore.
Know my
Like Sonic
preferences.
Frontiers defaulted to fidelity, and that game is not fun at 30 frames a second. It's just like it shines at 60. Um, there's actually a demo for that game on Switch now, so I'm going to install it and just
Oh
see what
boy.
it's like on Switch. But I feel like for this Switch hardware, Zelda will be kind of a true test of like if that game doesn't run well, it's time to get a new thing out the door because the first one was a Wii U game, so like this should theoretically and Breath of the Wild on Switch had its hiccups, it had its moments of frame drop, but for the most part, it was pretty good, and I'm expecting the same hopefully from the new one. But that's a big open world game. Yeah, it's internally at Nintendo. Like,
Right.
yeah, Nintendo owns Monolith, but this is within Nintendo. So we'll see. That'll be a big
Right.
one. Yeah,
If they can't get a handle on it, who can?
no
Would be
one.
the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's time to move on if that's the case. Yeah.
We'll see. Biggest surprise is hop back to Microsoft. What is your biggest surprise from them this past year, 2022?
I thought they had a really strong showcase in the summer. I think that we have criticized them in the past for only showing logos of things or brief teaser trailers of things, but then at E3, their fake E3, they said everything we're showing you today is coming out in the next 12 months. And then we saw gameplay, we saw gameplay showcases, gameplay trailers, release dates, Game Pass announcements, like a legitimate showcase, which I've been criticizing for them for years on their showcases that have been a lot of fluff, no substance, and that we've seen that because we're here in 2023, and a lot of the games they were showing in their showcases 4 or 5 years ago still aren't out. And now we're getting to the point where some of them, ones they showed last year, are going to start coming out. So I think that was really strong. Like we have Stalker 2, we have Redfall, there's Starfield. Hollow Knight Silk Song is coming to Game Pass on day one. Like these were all things I remember from their summer showcase. That was like, yeah, that was a good show this year. I thought it was a big step forward when it had been rough going for them in the shows for a few years.
Yeah. Now they just got to deliver.
And they have another one coming up next week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see how that one is.
Yeah. And maybe we'll get kind of a glimpse inside as to what their plans are moving forward for kind of a direct style presentation. It seems like
Yep.
this might be going in that direction. So we'll get a better view of that next week.
Yeah.
And that Starfield one coming whenever that is. Gonna be a fair amount of those.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest surprise was the Activision Blizzard acquisition and the controversy from regulators. I feel like when they acquired Bethesda, that thing kind of just went through. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there was a big stink, at least from regulators, that about that deal. And yes, it is smaller. Activision Blizzard has Call of Duty, so that just makes it the biggest deal. But to go from a deal where there didn't seem to be much controversy at all to Activision Blizzard, where there are multiple different countries trying to block this from moving forward, I don't know. I was kind
Yeah.
of caught off guard by it. I don't think I disagree. I can totally see
Yeah.
where they're coming from here, because everything that Xbox has said kind of feels a little bit hollow to me. We've talked about it on the show before, but these whole things of like, yeah, we're committed to having Call of Duty on PlayStation for the foreseeable future, for the next 10 years, all of these things. And you see that. And then the next train of thought is, okay, what happens after the next 10 years? Once you get this deal through, there's nothing stopping you from just, once that's over, just completely abandoning PlayStation.
Yep.
And moving forward. And the whole comment about, oh, this makes everything better for gamers, more opportunities to play games and things, is just doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry. There's no truth to that. There's just not, because either it stays the same and everything is on the consoles that it's already on, or it goes only to Xbox. And that's not, you're either keeping things the same or removing chances for people to play these games. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't say I fully disagree, but I am surprised the governments are actually getting involved, because I'm kind of used to them not doing that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. That was a year ago. That was a year ago today, I think, that all happened. And on the year anniversary, they lay off 10,000 people. So
Not a good
nice.
look.
Mm-hmm.
Not a good look.
Yeah.
What's your surprise from Sony 2022?
How little I used the console was my biggest surprise.
Is that not a disappointment, or is it
It was
line?
surprising. It was both. I literally didn't have one, because I guess I'm surprised that they didn't have a showcase all year. They had some state of plays for individual games, but they did not show us anything last year. Literally in it, they had the PSVR 2 showcase. They had a God of War state of play. They had some state of plays, but what they brand now is their showcase, where they show off what their first party studios are working at. The last one that we had was September of 2021, when they announced Wolverine and Spider-Man 2 and Knights of the Old Republic. That was the last time we heard from Sony first party proper, like big showcase. So, and I
with multiple
couldn't believe
titles
it.
involved that wasn't VR.
Yeah, that they went a whole year without that. And this year for Sony was just like, we're making movies, and that was it. All year. That was all they talked about. And yeah, I know people love God of War. That series, that's not really for us, as we've talked about dozens of times on this show. But yeah, then for them to say in a blog post, yep, Spider-Man's coming in the fall. It's like, okay, but what about the rest of the year? Like,
Also, is that the best way to say that? Wouldn't that be a big deal if you had a showcase of other games and have that be the capper of it? That'd be huge if you had other games to go with it. And then at the end, boom, Spider-Man's coming out this fall.
Yeah. And I almost feel like their studios are cycling together at a point where it's like Sucker Punch and Naughty Dog delivered within a month of each other. We're not going to hear from them again for a long time. And then are we going to hear from them at the same time, have this huge explosive year, and then it takes forever again? And I don't understand why Insomniac's the only studio that has been putting out multiple titles.
And they're pumping stuff out.
Them out. Yeah. Yeah. And granted, like, they are definitely kind of like iterating on previously established games. Like Rift Apart, yeah, it is on PS5. It does a bunch of new stuff with the tech, but it looks like Ratchet and Clank 2016, but better. And then Miles Morales is in the same open world, and I'm guessing Spider-Man 2 will also be. So it's kind of like that Yakuza situation where you can just crank them out because you're kind of reusing the same area. But yeah, it's like there's just nothing coming from anybody else. And they keep acquiring these studios, but then some are making VR projects. Yeah, it's just been a weird time.
I mean, that's the other thing with with VR for people like us who are not bought in and are not going to be playing that for a while. Just the idea that with these showcases, they could have multiple that are just non-factors. Like you
Yep.
watch the VR show and it does nothing. Maybe you watch it and see a couple of games like, wow, that'd be cool if I could play that, but I'm not going to. And then
Yeah.
the entire thing was a wash. Like it just didn't matter.
Yeah. I'm looking at a list of their studios right now, and it's like it was been such a long time since we've heard from so many of these people. Like Bend, we have not heard from since
Well, we've
2019.
heard from some of the
Well, we've
some of the
we've
former
heard from them. We
former
haven't heard of a
people.
game from them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Blue Point Games, they're working on something, but we haven't heard from them since 2020 when they released Demon Souls. Gorilla just released Horizon. And then Naughty Dog, it's been since 2020.
No
I thought The Last
multiplayer.
of Us was going to get DLC. They moved that to just a multiplayer project, which we still haven't seen. Sucker Punch. Ghost of Tsushima, to be fair, did get the definitive edition. It got the DLC. It got the post-launch and multiplayer mode. So, yeah, and that was still just 3 years ago. But, yeah, and then Team Asobi, I thought, how are they not releasing a game at launch on PlayStation VR 2? Like, that's crazy to me. Like, it's just been so long since we've heard from these people. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Naughty Dog was in the news recently, or Neil Druckmann was of Naughty Dog, saying that they're going to try and announce games closer to launch, which I think is a good plan overall, because then you don't have people knowing about this game multiple years before it comes out and the pressure kind of just ratchets up. But at the same time, that does mean that if you're not showing those games off, sometimes you just don't have a lot to show.
I guess they did just release part one. I kind of forgot about the one. They did release part one last year. It was just The Last of Us 1 again, but it did exist. It was there. Yeah. People worked on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't make much of a splash because you could already play the game on the console already.
Yeah. Yeah. I won't lie though, watching the show does make me want to play it, which you would think it wouldn't. I thought I was like, oh, I'm going to watch this instead of playing it. But now that I'm watching it, I'm like, I kind of want to play this game again.
They've got you.
Yeah,
That's how they do it. That's
I
how
already
they
have the copy from
claw
Zach
you
though,
back.
so
Oh,
I'm
there
good.
you go.
I don't have to buy it. Yeah.
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 My biggest surprise was the amount of film and TV show adaptations that Sony is pumping out. We already knew
Yeah.
about some of them beforehand. Uncharted, we've known about for seemingly a century, and that thing finally came out, and that was the thing. But even just this year, heard about God of War, Horizon, Gran Turismo came out of nowhere for me with that trailer. I know that they announced it before that, but that trailer kind of just caught me off guard. I was like, oh, that's actually happening. We've got Last of Us, which is out now. You've got the Twisted Metal thing, whatever that's going to turn into. Like, they are just pumping these things out.
Yeah.
And everything. It seems like they kind of just opened the floodgates immediately. Like, it wasn't like, let's test the waters, see how these perform, and then we'll go gung-ho if they do well. It seemed like they had a bunch of these in the works, and they're all kind of just coming out now.
Yeah. Yeah, because Gran Turismo's coming out this year.
Yep.
Last of Us just started. Uncharted was last year. And then I don't know what other stuff's happening.
Horizon and God of War, I'm not sure when those are set.
Yeah.
Out. Let's see.
I know I've talked about this before, but the weirdest thing about all of it is just that they're all on different networks. Like, they're not partnering with anything to be like one kind of specific place. It's just like all over the place. Gran Turismo's coming out in August. And like Last of Us is not a PlayStation Productions thing. It's HBO. Like, it's HBO Naughty Dog. It is not PlayStation Productions, which is interesting.
Yeah. I don't think that there is anything on when Horizon's coming out. I don't know about God of War either, but those are probably a little bit further off.
Oh, I was wrong. It is PlayStation Productions.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
But yeah, I was very caught off guard with how many of these are, one, being announced, and two, are coming out all around the same time.
Gravity Rush. Gravity Rush is getting a movie. Yeah. Yep.
They don't seem to care about the video game version of that very much.
No, they don't.
But the multimedia property, there you go.
The one that's really interesting to me is Ghost of Tsushima, because the director and writer has said that they want to make the whole thing in Japanese, which would be cool. That would be really cool.
They don't need to dub it over and have the
very opposite
voices
of the
not
game.
match up. What was that? That's
That
still
was
weird to me
insane.
today. I mean, I'm glad that they were able to rectify it with the PS5 version, but how did that happen?
Yeah. Are you gonna play in Japanese or English?
Japanese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The English voice acting is very good because that's what I was kind of forced to play it in, but it was very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's always whatever I play it in first is how I kind of go with it moving forward. Um,
Yeah. Hmm.
like like Xenoblade, for example, I played that in English to start, and they're not really tied to each other that much, but they have that same style. And I think it'd feel weird to swap back. You can do it, and it'd be fine. But I
But
feel
then
like
you wouldn't
once I'm
get to hear
set,
about all the like, lands
yeah,
on something a bit
yeah,
meatier.
I wouldn't hear that.
Girl with the gall, you wouldn't know that.
A girl with the gall. I still don't know what that means. But yeah, I feel like I get used
Yeah.
to a certain style or a certain
Yeah.
cast, and it's hard to swap after that. But planning
Hmm.
to play it in Japanese.
Cool.
Nintendo, biggest surprise of the year.
The Mario Kart 8 DLC. It just came out of nowhere. We were watching that direct and just we watched that one together, I think.
Was that the one we
Because
watched together?
yeah, because that was the same one where they announced Battle League. And you had
Oh,
that was the same one. Yeah, we watched that one together and they announced the DLC and we just couldn't believe it. I never thought they were going to go that route, especially after 5 years of the game being out.
and
But
longer
they
since
did.
Mario Kart 8 originally.
Yeah. And yeah, the tracks aren't as high quality as the base game, but they get me back into the game. I've played a lot of Mario Kart in the last year because of them. It's just making that game an insanely valuable package. It made Switch Online a much more valuable subscription, and it's been fun. And it's brought back some of my favorite tracks, some new favorites, like some of the tour ones are really, really,
Yeah.
really good. So yeah, that was just I wouldn't have ever guessed that Mario Kart 8 was going to get DLC. I was all in on Mario Kart 9, and then yeah, here they are.
Yeah, I was under the assumption that Mario Kart 8 is still selling. They don't need to do anything with it. They can just
Yeah.
put all of the eggs into whatever Mario Kart 9 turns into on the next Switch. The fact that they would go back and add more stuff to it is super cool. And I'm from a game preservation standpoint, I'm really glad that the tour tracks are going to escape the mobile game because the
Yeah.
mobile game is not going to last forever. That will disappear at some point along with those tracks. And so it's nice that it'll
Unfortunately,
be
these are still just on. These aren't on a cart or anything. So
right.
yeah, but
But there
yeah.
is another way to play it. And
Hmm.
they'll be around longer than the mobile game. Like
Yeah.
at the very least, the people who own this will still be able to play it seemingly
Yeah.
for as long as possible.
Yep.
But with Tour and with other mobile games, they can shut that down whenever and the game is completely locked and inaccessible.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
So I'm glad on that front that those tracks are getting to a new audience and will be able to last longer than a mobile game lasts.
Yeah.
My surprise of the year was the strength of the game lineup. I think that also comes from the fact that I bought a PS5 this year and there just wasn't anything to play on it. But yeah, just the amount of hits both that I played and didn't play this year from Nintendo was really impressive. We had Kirby, we had Pokemon Legends Arceus. I'm still playing through Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and it's a great time. Bayonetta 3 came out. Pokemon Pokemon came out
Mhm.
again.
Mhm.
But
Live Alive,
I'm
Splatoon,
Live
Fire
Alive,
Emblem
Splatoon, yeah,
Warriors. Yeah.
there's a bunch of
Battle League.
stuff, and I don't want to mention that game. Screw that game. But as we get further along, you're just waiting for that point where things start to slow down. They have to slow down at a certain point because you have to move along to whatever comes next. And each year that doesn't happen and that there's still a bunch of huge games that are coming out for the system catches me by surprise. Mario Kart 8 DLC was also there.
Yeah. And this year is another one of those because I mean, we've got a Fire Emblem with like an 83 on Open Critic, great score, coming out tomorrow. We've got February. They have two games coming out the same day, Octopath 2 and Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe come out on the 24th. And then Zelda a few months later. Hopefully Advance Wars somewhere in there. Pikmin 4
Where's
at
that?
some point. Like, wow, this isn't the year it slows down because that's already that lineup that I just listed already outpaces PlayStation's lineup from last year.
Whole
And
year.
that's just what we know of on January 18. Yeah.
Yeah, so
We're
really
getting new Mario this year.
pleasantly
Like
surprised.
I'd bet the farm that we're getting new Mario this year. I'll be absolutely shocked if we don't.
Let's get into those predictions. Is that one of your
Yep,
predictions for the year? You're
it is.
spoiling it before we do our predictions for this year. why don't we take a look back at those predictions from last year? Logan, did you get any of your predictions for 2022 right, or
Um,
close?
I got one close.
All right.
My three predictions for last year were very easy. I said that Starfield, Zelda, and Ragnarok were all going to make it out, and only one of them did. Yep, I said we will get Ragnarok sooner than we think. I'll take that as a win. It came out, and it came out on a Wednesday, which was sooner than
Yeah.
I thought it would come out in the week that
Well,
it
for a
came
while
out.
there, people were thinking if it was going to hit, and
Yeah.
it did. So,
Yep.
caught some
So
people
that
by
one did come
surprise.
out. I said Zelda would come out with a Switch OLED special edition. That leaks that it might come out alongside a Switch OLED if that is real. So just a few months later. And Starfield also obviously did not come out. So 1 for 3 for me.
Okay. My predictions for last year: PSVR 2 will launch holiday 2022 for $500. It'd be extremely hard to find. I was wrong on both of those, but the $500 was pretty close. Pretty close to that final
Yep.
price tag that I will not be paying. Oh God, Sports
I'll say
Story.
I don't think it's going to be hard to find because I don't think that many people are going to want it.
Depends on how many they
Yeah.
produce.
Oh,
We'll see. I predicted that Sports Story will get a launching today announcement at E3 of last year, whatever E3 turned into. It did not. It got a launching today on a advent calendar that Nintendo was doing, and it was bad. So
Yep.
that prediction just makes me sad. And I said Sonic Frontiers will be pushed to 2023, and it did not.
Woo-hoo-hoo,
It came
no.
out.
Uh-huh.
0 for 3.
Yeah, I'm glad that you were 0
3.
for 3 on one of those. On Sonic. Yeah.
I'm glad that I was wrong on Sports Story because I cannot imagine what that game would have been like in the summer.
Yeah.
I don't think that game would have run.
Yeah.
So not very good. Why don't we try and do better this year? Logan, what are your predictions that will come true in 2023? These are guaranteed. There's no chance that these will be wrong.
I feel great about 2 of these. And almost want to change one, but I won't. I'll stick with it. The one that I want to change is that I wrote that The Last of Us multiplayer will be out this year and better than we expect. I think that it's the 10th anniversary of The Last of Us 2023. I think they want to get it out, capitalize on the hype from the show. And when I say it'll be better than we expect, I think that there's going to be some story content with like voice acting and new characters taking on this kind of new angle of the world of The Last of Us that you can play with your friends. I think it's going to be like a kind of a multiplayer title with a story and a mission structure in addition to its firefight. And I think it's out this fall. I think that Spider-Man hits in like September or October, and I think this comes out in November. I think that this is big enough. Sony's doing this huge push for live service games. I think this is going to be there, and it could be free to play. That'd be crazy. Oh man, I don't know.
Oh, that doesn't fit with my image of Sony.
Yeah, but they want.
If it's not Bungie,
that,
Bungie's been doing that with Destiny with the base game of that.
But a Naughty Dog free to play? No,
I don't think so.
I'll take it back. I'll take that part back. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be something that like you'll play, Kev. I think you'll play
I was gonna say if it has some of the things that you mentioned there, I would actually play it. If it's just a multiplayer version of The Last of Us in that world, but that's basically it, I don't think I really care. But if there's story there, I'd probably give it a shot. Maybe not at $70.
Yeah, I probably would. I'm a sucker, but yeah, if it's good. Do you want me to go through all 3 of mine, or are you going to give one
hit
now?
up.
Okay. There's going to be a Game Pass price increase this year. I think that it's been hinted at for a while, and they have so many games coming out. So why not ratchet that thing up a little bit before like Starfield and stuff?
They're also increasing the prices of Xbox games. The games that are built for Xbox Series consoles are taking that jump that Sony already did to $70. And I feel like with that conversation about keeping the console prices stable for the holidays, I felt like they kind of positioned that as, okay, this holiday, we're keeping everything the same, but it's not going to be like that for long, is really what it felt like.
Yeah.
And that extends to the consoles, the games we already know about, and Game Pass is the next logical one.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to happen. I'll say it's $14.99 a month for a Game Pass Ultimate. I'll say it's going to be $17.99, $18 a month. Yep. For Game Pass Ultimate is the price increase.
Where does that put you on as a sometimes Game
Pass
subscriber? Out completely?
Well, not completely, but it would be like, it gets tougher because it's like, I am interested in trying Starfield. But then it's like, okay, but how many months will I need to subscribe to beat it? And then I
Right.
don't own it when I'm done subscribing. Like, should
Right.
I just buy it at that point?
You
I
add
don't
it
know.
up,
Yeah.
and it's about a new game every 3.5, 4 months,
Hmm.
kind of.
Yeah.
You
So
got to
it
make
gets
that
tougher.
call.
It gets tougher, but I am a sometimes subscribe. I just resubscribed to play Pentiment, which I've played a little bit of. Probably cancel when I'm done with that. Wait for the next thing, hop back on. But yeah, yeah, it was cheaper than the game was because the game was 20 and the month was 15. And I'm like, yeah, I'll play this for a
The
month and
game's only
see.
20. Really?
Yeah,
Was it a
I
budget
think
title
so.
all the whole time, or was it on sale as well?
It might have been on sale. Yeah, yeah. I think it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't remember. Because the Xbox is very weird about what prices it tells you when it's on Game Pass. Because it's like, oh, just get Game Pass, and then this will be
Yeah,
yours forever. Yeah, so I'm not sure what its price is. If you're doing, are you price checking?
I am. Yeah. You can go to your next one. I'll figure it
Okay,
out.
my last prediction. I already spoiled it, but it's that there's going to be a new mainline Mario game this fall. I think that there has to be. Honestly, I think that it's going to be the swan song for the Switch. I think that we're getting new hardware. So I guess it's kind of two in one. I think we're getting new hardware next spring. Um, Similar launch timing to the Switch. I think it's kind of coming spring 2024. I've been saying that for years, by the way. All you people are like 2019 new hardware, 2021 new hardware. I've been saying 2024 for years, and now that's next year, which is kind of crazy. Um, but I just think with the Mario movie this year, I shook
All
my
right there.
entire camera. Yeah, I'm too hyped over
Too
this new Mario
excited for
game.
Mario.
Yeah, I think that with the Mario movie this year, the fact that it's been 6 years since Odyssey by the time this fall rolls around, which was the last new mainline Mario game besides Bowser's Fury,
Full
which
game, new
yeah,
full
full
game.
game.
Yeah.
Like they've been working on something, and it's just got to come out this fall. I really think it will. I hope it's Odyssey too, but I won't go that far in my prediction. But new mainline, my gut might, my honestly, my gut's saying that it's going to be a 2D game. The Switch doesn't have an original 2D Mario game besides Mario Maker. I think that it's time to see Nintendo's new spin on 2D Mario in a post Mario Maker world. Like, what is that going to be?
That'd
Yeah.
be disappointing. I just want more 3D Mario.
Yeah.
So you think
Yeah.
that they would put that game out before the next console comes along? They wouldn't kind of hold it back for kind of a first year situation because they're already burning Zelda. Zelda's
Mhm.
coming out on Switch.
Mhm.
You think that they're going to do that with Mario too, or
Yeah, because
instead of
Mario
holding
Kart
it back?
9 is going to be the launch title for the next hardware,
Okay,
which I'm also pretty confident in. I think that
that
they're
makes
wrapping
sense.
up the
Yeah.
DLC by end of 2023. I think Mario Kart 9 gets announced next January and comes out next April. I really do. I really think it's time
They've
for
had
that.
time.
Yeah.
They've had a lot of time for it.
Yeah. We know these tracks that they're cranking out have not taken 5 years to make. So, yeah.
They're all just on
No,
tour.
what else could they have at launch? Metroid Prime 4, Mario Kart 9, those two on launch. That's huge. That's hardcore game, a casual game. Yeah, that's great.
All right. Update on Pentiment. It is $20,
It
and
is.
it
Yeah.
is
Okay.
currently on sale for 15. Apparently.
Oh, shoot. Could have bought it for the month that I spent.
Well, guess you got to play something else to make it worth
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
My predictions for this year. Speaking of the Switch, I think that there will be tons of rumors about this next iteration of Switch. I'm going to say that we don't hear anything official from Nintendo this year.
Okay. Okay.
I feel like it could come out next year, but I'm gonna say that we don't hear anything just yet.
Interesting. Because I do think we hear this year, based on my prediction. I think they're honestly going to try and copy the formula they did last time with that little trailer at the end of this year, followed by that huge blowout they did for the Switch. So
We'll
we
see.
won't know if you're right until January 1.
Exactly.
Or when it
Because if it
happens.
comes out on January 1st, I'm right.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
Get it? Yeah, Happy
Kevin
New Year.
was right.
I'm right, and now we get to see what comes next from
Yeah.
Nintendo. So yeah, I'm gonna say that we don't hear anything official, but we will be hearing a lot from gaming news outlets and just the rumor mill swirling around about what this thing's gonna be throughout this
Yeah.
year. I think that is at the very least a guarantee. I'm going to say that we finally hear about the Dragon Quest titles again. I don't
I
think
hope
both
so.
of them are going to hit this year, but I'm going to say that the HD 2D remake is going to be coming out this year. I'm going to say that they've got something to say about it within the early part of the first half of this year, and that it's going to come out in the second half.
I hope so.
I
Octopath
have
Traveler 2 is hitting pretty early, so if it's at the
yeah,
end of the year, I'd be in.
I have no idea what is going on with because this the HD 2D one is a little bit easier to predict for because we actually saw something about it. Like we actually
Mhm.
saw gameplay of that thing.
Yeah.
The new mainline Dragon Quest game, I have no idea what that game is, where it's coming out, anything. So I have no idea. But
Yeah.
we hear about at least one of them, if not both, and the HD 2D remake is going to be coming out this year.
They just
That's
announced
my
some, like,
prediction.
battle royale Dragon Quest game for Japan only, like, yesterday. Yeah.
Huh, I didn't know.
Yeah. So you can play it. I can't.
I don't think I will. I don't really care about battle royale.
Yeah.
I'll probably play 10 offline before I get to that.
Oh, that's awesome. Does that have a physical release?
Yeah, has
Oh,
physical
I'm
release
gonna
on
buy
PlayStation and
that.
Nintendo
I'm gonna buy
and
that when
Switch.
I'm over there. Yep, that is a. I have a couple games that are Japan only that I really want to pick up when I'm over there, and Buddy Mission Bond I want to grab,
Yep.
and I want to grab a Dragon Quest 10.
I've waited on all of them because they haven't dropped in price at all. Buddy
Yeah.
Mission Bond's still 55, and I'm playing
Uh,
all this other stuff. Since I live here, it's easier to just kind of wait
yeah.
and hopefully they drop. I don't think Buddy Mission Bond ever will, though. And I
Hmm.
don't know about Dragon Quest yet.
Yeah. That
Hopefully, we
game's
hear something
out.
from Dragon Quest,
Man,
though.
I didn't know that was out. Maybe we hear Dragon Quest 10's coming to the West.
That would be cool, too.
Oh, that'd be
That would be
awesome.
cool, too.
My Japanese isn't good enough to play that whole game. I just want it. I
Can
want to
just
so bad.
yeah, you can just get a feel of the gameplay.
Yeah.
That's another story too much. Can read a guide or something.
Hmm.
No. My last prediction is that Starfield is not coming out in the first half of this year, but it will be out before the end of the year.
Okay.
I feel like after that showcase that they had for it, they needed a little bit more time. We're going to get the blowout for it sometime in the first half of this year, and they're going to announce it for the fall.
Okay.
I think that works
Yeah.
out for Microsoft, and I think they understand how big Starfield is. I think that they know how big a deal this game is, and that it needs to be ready, especially with the dearth of first party content on Xbox. And they have games hitting in the first. Redfall is going to be coming out soon, and some other projects as well. So they've got some other stuff to have out before Starfield comes out, but I think it will
Yeah.
be this year.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, man, talking about Ubisoft last week and the troubles with this game and Sony's first party, it's just so dang hard to ship a AAA game these days. It just takes too, which is something I was having a conversation with about in terms of Nintendo, was that people were asking me like, "Hey, what do you want from the next Nintendo console?" And I'm like, "1080p, 60 FPS, that's it." And a OLED screen at launch. Like, really, I will be thrilled if that's what
New
it is. And they
Joy-Cons.
said,
Joy-Cons
"Oh
that are
yeah,
better.
yep, redesigned Joy-Con. What else? And backwards compatibility. I
Backwards
think were the
compatibility,
main
yeah.
things I said. But OLED screen at launch has grown very important to me. I seriously, in 2021, my split of handheld to TV was probably 80-20 in favor of the TV. It has flipped. It has flipped on a dime. Not counting multiplayer when you have to play on the TV. I'm talking if I'm playing myself, it is almost entirely in handheld, which is crazy. But anyways, I'm like, really? You don't want no 4K? I'm like, no, I don't, because look how hard it is to ship these games that are in 4K. It just takes so much more money and time and resources. It's not worth it when I'm going to play in the 60 FPS mode anyways.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's just not worth it. I don't need it. I don't think it will impact sales. I don't think that most of the 100 million people that have bought a Switch care at all about 4K, like really at all. Yeah, it's just impossible these days to ship a AAA game that's to the expectations people expect. And then on Switch, you're not expecting that visual showcase, but they could run a little better.
Yeah, I think if you can get 1080p and really good performance where these games aren't having to make sacrifices, I think that's best case scenario to me, at least. But I could see them going 4K for kind of a future proofing thing.
Maybe just what Series S does, maybe 1440p, not true 4K. Yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah. Because you look at the Wii and the people just dropped off from that. And I think it was easy to tell that people wanted something a little bit different. But games are still selling incredibly well on Switch all these years in, which means that people are okay with it to an extent, okay enough to keep on buying new titles for the thing.
In 1 month, we're getting an HD port of one of the games that was at the dead end of the Wii's life cycle, Kirby's Return to Dreamland. Which, dude, they're adding a lot to that game. They're adding more than I thought they were going to. which is kind of interesting. Like they're adding like new copy abilities and new
Oh,
sub
I did see
games,
that.
and
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow, I thought this was going to be a straight port. Yeah, do I have to
Yeah.
play it now?
I will not. I will not play it.
I do really like that game
Not for
though.
that price tag.
Yeah, if it ever
So
goes on sale for like $30, I'd probably pick that one up. I really like that Kirby game.
yeah.
Yeah,
So all those things are coming true. We're gonna.
I believe it.
It's 6 for 6 on that.
Yep.
Want to wrap up with what we've been playing? You got some sports story stuff that I'm interested in.
I do. You're just Xenoblade. Do you have anything new to add, or or is it another week of not much new to say?
No, I would like to say I had kind of a thought about why this game has kind of stood above 1 and 2. And before it was just, the amount of the main story is great, but the amount of interesting side content and all of these hero quests was really cool to me. Now I think I've fully figured out why, and I think it's because that these characters are all connected to the world. I think about it in regards to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, where you're getting all of these blades, but you are creating them yourself from these cores, and so they're detached from the world, and they're kind of just there as different combat abilities. But all of these characters that you're meeting along the way and recruiting are all part of this world, and they existed before you met them and joined up with them, and they have full storylines with multiple quests. And even in certain cases, what some of the hero quests have major implications on the main story, which is crazy that they're a side thing, but even some that don't necessarily have super major implications are still really interesting because these characters existed in this world that I care about, and it just fleshes out all of these different locations and other side characters.
Yeah.
So I just had that realization.
And in a lot of cases, the heroes know of the characters, or the other way around. Like, oh, this is their old teacher from their old colony, or oh, this is this legendary fighter or leader we've heard about. And like, yeah, they have cool backstories and ties to some of the heroes sometimes too.
Yeah, so
yeah, that's cool.
And I've passed the 75-hour mark.
I need to play that game.
It's long.
Uh-huh.
And
I've heard Fire Emblem is like 30 hours to beat. That's great. That's a great length. And I'm going to play hopefully 15 to 20 of that this weekend. I've set it aside to do pretty much nothing else. So
free weekend.
Yep.
Yep. So just moving along through Xenoblade, and it's still great.
Awesome. Yeah, I did play some Sports Story. I played Sports Story multiplayer, and even more broken than the main game. I'm here to report.
No.
So first, I accidentally clicked on. I hooked up. Zach came up this weekend. I hooked up my controller and his. There were 2 pro controllers connected, and I clicked main game. I accidentally clicked campaign instead of multiplayer, and it launched me into that area, the like fall area with the windmills and stuff. And then there were just 2 of the main character, and we were just both running around as the main character.
Could you keep playing like that?
We could both talk to people, and it eventually broke.
so that's when you knew, okay, this isn't a feature.
Yeah, it was just like, and then we couldn't replicate it because then this menu kept popping up. That's like, like the Switch menu, like press L and R on the controller you want it to be.
But it didn't go up originally.
It didn't the first time.
It took a while to figure it out.
And like Zach could talk to NPCs, but then I had to advance through the text as player 1, so it was super weird. But
so like, anyways, he initiated the conversation, but you had to click through the dialogue boxes.
And then we got...
And this is after the patch, the initial patch, right? That first patch is out.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And that's not even close to the most broken thing in the multiplayer. So multiplayer, there's no settings like there were in the Golf Story multiplayer, which we've played a fair amount of, Kev, and it's great, super fun. You get to pick your course, you get to pick the wind, you get to pick your club set, you get to pick if you play with the giant holes or the small holes, you get to pick if the greens roll mid, light, or heavy, you get to pick all these things. And in Sports Story, you pick nothing. It just sends you out to the course. It's 2 players. And then you know how in Sports Story you have all the different ball types and you can select which ball you want to use for different situations?
I've never used those. I'm going to be honest. I know that they exist, but
they're
I've
there,
never
but
used them.
Yeah, but they're there. Well, in this game, it gives you a set amount of them. You have like 2 sticky balls, 2 balls that direct straight towards the hole, 2 of the skimming balls, right? You have all these things. But it's a shared pool between you and player 2.
What?
which makes no
So you
sense.
just have to use them before the other person does. So you
Yeah,
just use them
you just
immediately.
use them every time. And then we ran out. Also, once you selected on the D-pad to use a special ball, there's no way to go back to use a normal ball. You've committed.
Oh my
And then
god.
you can hit X to pull up a menu of all the special types of golf balls, but then player one has to hit B to close that menu. Zach hit X, not knowing what he was doing, and then the menu comes up, but it's blank because we'd used all the balls. And then he's mashing B, and he looks at me. He's like, "I'm sorry, I broke it." And then I'm like, "Oh!" And I'm just sitting there, not touching my controller, because why would I be? And
You're
then I
not
just pick it
controlling
up,
anything. Yeah.
and I hit B, and the menu closes. And he's like, "What did I do?" And I'm like, "I think it was me," and it was, because we tried it again. He hit X, and then player one has to hit B to close out of the menu. And that's not even the worst part. There's two more things. I keep remembering more. Now in Golf Story, when say you're both on the green, right? You're both putting, and I go, and then I'm like a foot to the left of the hole. It'll have a little white X there, right? That's how it marks where my ball is. So you as player two, when you're going, can see where my ball is, but it doesn't impact your gameplay at all. Now the human character stands where the ball is, and there are scenarios where you'll hit it like 2 inches from the pin, and so your human is just standing on the hole, and then Zach's trying to putt, and he can't see the hole because I'm just standing right there, and I can't move or do
Obstruction.
anything about it. It is just insane. But the worst part is that it's utterly unplayable from a competitive stance because for some reason, player one always goes first, which isn't how golf should work, right? It's whoever does better on the previous hole goes first as a disadvantage since they did better. But player one always goes first. And on the first shot, for player one only, and only on the drive, only on the first shot of the hole, no matter what club you use, no matter where you aim, no matter what special ball type you use, no matter how much power you use, no matter what you do, the ball locks on to the nearest obstacle like a magnet and just slams off of it and then ricochets somewhere random. So, like, you're just screwed. You can't, player one can't win because they're going to be like 2 strokes behind. Like, say you're on the tee and there's like a rock here, and I aim way over here on the fairway, and I time it up. It's a perfect timing, right? It's perfect timing. The ball just goes bam off the rock and then stops every time, every hole, all 9 holes, 9 holes in a row. I don't even understand how that exists in the game.
Like how far is it going to magnetize, or does it just go to the nearest obstacle?
It goes to the
Like
nearest one. So if there's a rock on the
Okay.
left, a rock on the right, and your shot aims more left than right, it just locks onto that rock.
Can you see it turn, or is it from the time that you hit it, it is automatically going that way?
It's automatic. It doesn't even look remotely like the shot I set up. Like,
How does that happen?
I don't know. And we tried it so many. I did one where I turned all the way around just to see what would happen. Like, I aimed backwards of where I should be going, and there was a tree right here, and it just went bam right off the tree and then sat there. Yep. And it will do trees, it will do rocks, it will do like food carts that are set up around, or golf carts, like, and the animation doesn't even look right. Like, it doesn't even look like the ball flies in the air. It looks like you putt it, but way faster than you can normally putt, and it just rocket putts to the nearest obstacle that you weren't even remotely aiming for.
What happened to this game?
Yeah. And only for player one on the first shot of every hole. It's unplayable. You literally, and then we played Golf Story and we're like, man, this is fun.
Wow,
This
yeah,
is a
this
good
is
time.
this is an actual good game.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's insane. That was an insane story. In sports story. Yeah, we just had to try it. We were too curious to see what the
you gotta
multiplayer was like, and it was so bad.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Had to check where it's sitting at on OpenCritic.
Mm-hmm.
Got a 53 from 10 reviews. Critics recommend 0%.
That's such a shame, man. Yeah.
We've been waiting
Hopefully
for
it
this
gets
game for
patched up.
years.
Yeah.
Again, though, I think that the game itself, no matter how much they patch it, in its best state is going to be nowhere near what Golf Story was.
Mm-hmm.
Just
yeah,
features of the game just don't work as intended. Things that it's probably not worth it for them to patch. I think that the performance stuff they can patch, hopefully they can patch so that you can actually have a smooth experience running through the main campaign. But gameplay stuff, I don't think they're going to go through the trouble of fixing that. They're trying hard enough to fix the game breaking nonsense that's already in there.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. But I've been playing another game this week. A game that I have meant to play for years, like a very long time. I have meant to play this. It started life as a Wii U exclusive. I don't know if you know, but that's Rayman Legends. It's on Switch. It goes on crazy sales all the time because it's a Ubisoft game. I remember picking it up for like $4, like back on the digitally on the Switch eShop. And I've always heard this is just a great platformer. And I don't know, leading into Fire Emblem, I was like, I'm just really in the mood for something kind of light and kind of mindless. And kind of the genre that always does that for me is like 2D platformers. And so I was just looking through like, oh, what haven't I played? And I saw Rayman Legends and I decided to give it a shot. And I'm glad I did because it's amazing. It is an amazing game, Kev. I recommend it to you because you're a Tropical Freeze fan. And that's what it reminds me the most of. It is like this modern platforming masterpiece, constantly trying new things, gorgeous level design. That like hand-drawn art style of Rayman Legends is really cool looking. Like the backgrounds and the enemies and the environments just look really, really cool. The music's not as strong as it is in like Tropical Freeze. Like it has kind of like 7 or 8 main tracks that it kind of reuses across a bunch of levels. But they're nice, cleverly hidden collectibles, crazy shakeups that just totally change the level. Like an early one is like it turns you into a chicken, and then Rayman's just a chicken running around, and he has slightly different physics. And I have the same beef with it as I do Tropical Freeze, which is that the boss fights suck and aren't very fun.
Are they really long like Tropical Freeze?
They are really long, but there's checkpointing. So, and there's no lives.
God.
There's no lives either. So you get infinite tries if you're stuck at a certain
That's
checkpoint.
nice, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. It's a really, really good game. And it has the music levels that like kind of Sackboy also has, where you're platforming to the timing of like these songs in the background. Those, really cool. Really, really cool. It's multiplayer. I'm playing it alone, but it looks like it has really good multiplayer. There's super challenging sprinting levels where you just can't stop moving. Like, yeah, it's everything I wanted right now. It's really, really, really strong. It's great.
I've heard a lot of really good things about Rayman Legends, and it's just surprising that Ubisoft has not gone back to that. I think it was really well received. Maybe it didn't sell well. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it did sell that great.
Really gone back to Rayman very much.
Yeah, it's weird. He had that big resurgence with Origins and Legends, and then just gone again. Like,
goodbye.
Yeah, this game was a decade ago already. Yeah, I guess he just came back as DLC for Sparks of Hope, but it doesn't really count.
And then they just said that underperformed.
Yep. Yeah.
Because of Rayman. Yeah. It's Rayman's fault.
Rayman Legends does have a bunch of Ubisoft BS, though. Like, it has like a live service thing where it's like a daily challenge it's constantly pushing you to do. It has these like scratch cards where you unlock things, and they have actually 40 levels from Origins or in Legends, but you can only get them by unlocking them through random scratch tickets. So it's super annoying to try and get them.
Good old gotcha fun.
So some of that stuff is annoying, but there's cool costumes. There's a Mario costume on the Switch version. Rayman dresses like Mario. I'm playing as, I think, Assassin Ray, who looks like Altair from Assassin's Creed. But yeah, it's a super great game, and it's always cheap, and yeah, it's cool. There are some levels that aren't as good because it's not on Wii U anymore. Like there's this like little guy, mosquito guy that flies around that will like move platforms for you, that you drag them, and it's all just assigned to button presses on the Switch version. And I can totally tell, yeah, you're supposed to look at the gamepad and drag this platform across the screen and then jump on it. But that's lost. But that's only like a fifth of the levels maybe that's in there, so it's not a big loss for the modern platform release. But yeah, it's really cool. It's a really cool game. I want to play Rayman Origins. I'll probably just play Origins normally because I don't want to bother unlocking all these levels. Yeah But it's super
I've thought about it.
I recommend it.
Yeah, if I've ever got a 2D itch, maybe I'll hop on it.
Yeah,
so
it's a
I'm
good
sure
one.
It's always on sale.
Yes. Yeah, it's very cheap. Yeah. And on the OLED, it looks amazing. It just pops. It's great art style for that console.
Once the next Switch comes out, I'll have an OLED screen as well.
Yes, hopefully.
We're close enough to the next console that I'm just full on waiting.
Yeah.
Waiting for the next one, and then gonna hop in day one.
Yeah, that makes
One of
sense.
these
My
days I'll
Switch is just
experience
in
OLED.
it was in rough condition. It was
Yeah.
falling apart. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm finally getting Joy-Con drift randomly, so that's
Uh,
fun.
yeah, it sucks.
But I mean, I've been using it for years, so
Mhm.
take what you
Yeah.
will. All right. Any final thoughts? That's about it for us.
Big Fire Emblem talk next week.
I
Yeah.
will sit here and listen.
I might have a beat. We'll see.
Oof.
Yeah.
Quick. You trying to get back to Xenoblade that fast?
Yeah, hopefully, because then it's a 2-month sprint to Star Wars in March.
Yeah, got a little
Yeah.
bit of time there if you can get through
Mhm.
Fire Emblem pretty quick.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. We'll hear about that next week. But for this week, that's going to do it for us on Ode to Games. We're here on Thursdays or Fridays, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, other podcast streaming services that you may use. YouTube at Ode to Games has the video version of the podcast every week. We're on Twitter at Ode to Games. You can send an email to odegamescast@gmail.com. For Logan, I'm Kevin. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.